Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Future Tech podcast series. It's me, Charlie Sell, the MD of Arrows Group, and this podcast series is aimed at STEM graduates. It's where we're interviewing CIOs, CTOs, founders, CEOs of software tech businesses, asking them a bit about their story, a bit about their thoughts on emerging technology, and of course, advice for our STEM graduates who are listening to the podcast, who are either about to start their university course or about to leave and think of the job market. So it gives me great pleasure. I've got Bruce Hellman with me today. Bruce is the CEO and founder of uMotif, a software company within the health tech space. And I think if you're looking at the market right now, health tech, med tech, it's the technology businesses within the growing sectors that I think are doing a lot of the most exciting stuff right now. So yeah, hi Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you, nice to be here today.
Yeah, how are you today?
Very good, enjoying the sort of summer break, but plenty has been going on, which is exciting in our industry.
Yeah, well, and it really has, hasn't it? From what I've seen, you know, we look across the different sectors with fintech and e-commerce, but health tech seems to be one which is definitely future-proof if we think about what's going on in the world right now.
Absolutely. So over the last 8 years or so since I founded uMotif with a couple of other people, we've seen a growth in the health tech and med tech industry. I think it's going to be so important because it is obviously part of the future and how technology will help hopefully bring an end some day to the end of the COVID crisis, but you know, also making our society more resilient and stronger, helping to drive new therapies, find new ways to help people keep healthy and safe and recover from disease, and more generally to help improve people's healthcare journey. It makes a big impact on people's lives, and I think that's what's so exciting for many people. And it will definitely continue to be a key part of the economy going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so just tell us a little bit more exactly about what uMotif does then.
Yeah, so we're as you say, a health tech software company, and our software helps patients take part in clinical trials and research studies. So we work with pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, medical device companies, and universities and hospitals. Anywhere where there's a researcher who needs to capture data from a patient to chart how they are doing whilst they're taking part on a new trial of a drug or a new device, for example. So patients use our software. They download an app to their own phones. They can connect in their sensors, like a Fitbit or a wearable, answer a series of questionnaires. These are what's called validated questionnaires. So the data can be used in conjunction with data that comes from doctors to be able to demonstrate whether a drug is effective or not, or whether a particular therapy is safe and having the impacts that it needs to. So our software really helps those companies get therapies to market, gets therapies into new conditions. But the critical thing for us at uMotif has been, while generating that much needed research data, we also focus a lot on a better patient experience. So people actually get more out of taking part in a trial themselves, being able to, in many cases, track and understand our own healthcare as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. Okay, and so how did you get into this? Tell us a bit about your story then.
So like with most people, you know, there's a meandering path that often takes one into sort of entrepreneurship. So earlier in my career, during university, I spent a placement year working for a pharma company called British Biotech at the time in clinical trials. After university, I skied for 2 winters, which was fantastic. Yeah. Came back from that and joined the civil service on the fast stream graduate program, which was great. I did a sciences degree, natural sciences at Bath. Came back and worked in the government for 4 years. The bureaucracy, unsurprisingly, was quite heavy for what I wanted. So I then moved to a company called Serco and worked in the consultancy division of Serco, which runs a lot of big public services. Whilst I was at Serco, I did an MBA part-time at Imperial, one of the executive MBAs. And while I was there, it kind of really sparked my interest in doing something a bit more entrepreneurial. I'm running my own company, and rather than working for bigger companies. So that sort of entrepreneurship really got sparked during that process, and then after, a couple of years later, found my co-founder, and we then started uMotif.
Fantastic. Wow. And so, you talked a lot about data obviously being just so key now in regards to pretty much everything, I think, whether it's helping us to understand patterns or AI or machine learning even. What's your thoughts when you're thinking about your business and emerging technologies? What excites you when you think about the future of technology?
Well, I think lots of us sort of scientists, technologists, and engineers get excited about the pure technology of things. How can you use the devices that are in people's pockets? What can we sense? Maybe what can be done with that huge quantity of data? But I think the most exciting things come when you have an overlap of technology and humans and people. Because of course, there are some areas where it is just about the tech, but in most cases, the most exciting thing about technology is the application to humans. And making that technology something that people can use. And the job of a lot of the technologists is to hide the complexity, much like organizations like Apple and others do so well, that the interface or the end product that people interact with is simple, it's beautiful, and it solves a particular problem or an issue for them. So I think that there are both fantastic new technology innovations that we can see coming in the next few years. So I think for our space, that will be more types of data, more sensor data, captured in the background just seamlessly and easily for people. There'll be a lot more around genomics, capturing a lot more of that kind of data to shine a light on the impacts of genetics on clinical conditions. I think obviously capturing huge amounts of data, machine learning and artificial intelligence will have a role. I think it's a little bit too hyped at the moment, but there will be fantastically practical applications. But whilst those technologies and tomorrow's tech will come along, it's most of what I'm excited in is how the combination of technologists and designers can bring those technologies to the fore and make it something that the average person will use, and it will seamlessly become part of their daily life. So, for example, how do we take sensor technology and, like Fitbit have done, you make that part of everyday life? Maybe the tracking technology that Strava have implemented that so many people, now it's part of daily life. And so for me, I think the most exciting thing is that intersection, and it's something that I learned quite a lot with that MBA, where there was a link up with designers from the Royal College of Art. I think it's that interaction between technology and design which will bring most benefit to most people. Yeah,
and that's a really interesting viewpoint on, like you say, so a lot of the podcast series we've done today, people have talked a lot about AI and machine learning as future emerging technologies. But I think the one thing that we forget or think about is actually you're always going to need human intervention in somewhere, and actually it's the human feedback loop that evolves things. So if you can put technology and human interaction together, then you're solving the real problem. And I think that's obviously what you guys are focusing on.
Absolutely, and this has been said so many times by, I think, some of the founders of Twitter and Spotify and amazing services like that, where if you take an existing human-to-human interaction and you turbocharge that with a digital element or some technology, then you're onto something that will make a difference and is a winner. Where technology sometimes doesn't quite grab the attention or scale so quickly is where you're inventing a problem or trying to have a technology that's looking for a problem to solve. But things like in healthcare, it's fundamentally around humans, either me, how I'm experiencing my healthcare, maybe with my carer or family member, or often with doctors and nurses. So that's why health tech is so ripe for great innovation and improving the way research is done, because there's a fundamental human activity. And that if we find the right applications of technology, it can make us have a better human-to-human interaction. Even as we've seen during this crisis, even that if that interaction is through what's called telehealth, a video consultation, you don't necessarily have to be in a room with your doctor or nurse. Video conferencing works really well, but having more data to fuel that conversation. It can help that healthcare professional have a better diagnosis, or that researcher to have more insight, and it can that use of technology can further enhance and empower that human to human interaction.
Yeah, and as we said at the beginning, it's such an interesting space when we think about health tech, because the options are endless, aren't they? The advancements, I think, are just endless when we think about the complexity of people's needs and just where it could go.
Absolutely. And there's a big span. I think with health tech, there are so many different areas within the health tech space. When we started, we were focusing more on how do we help a patient have a better follow-up appointment in their hospital. Now what we focus on is how do we help a patient taking part in a research study capture more rich data to supply for the research. Now, these are very different parts of what might be health tech or life sciences. And that's what's incredibly interesting in this area. You can slice and dice the market and have quite different impacts in different areas. And we've really found our niche, which is to empower more people to take part in research and capture more data. And you can apply some of the same sort of principles in so many different areas.
Yeah, fantastic. So then moving on to the last part, which is about advice, because thinking about, people listening, we've got STEM graduates and we've talked a lot about health tech. When you're looking, or if you were to give graduates advice who are about to enter the job market, is there any words of wisdom, as a hirer or a future employer, what you could offer them?
Yeah, well, I think a general thing is be interested and interesting. And that means, going a bit further than, you might have just learned something on your course, or interested in your one subject, but what's the extra? What else what's sparked your interest? Where have you done a bit more learning, or where have you maybe taken an online course? So, you might be, I don't know, maybe a mathematician or a biologist, but you've done a module in coding. Or you're an engineer and you've had a look at human-centered interaction design, for example. I think the most exciting people that I've been working with are those that have deep expertise in one area, but maybe have a bit of a knowledge of something else. And that makes it easier to work with others, because very rarely do you have a one-person team. The best outputs or the best outcomes for businesses are where you get 2 or 3 or 8 different people working together and understanding the skills and expertise that each of you bring. But if you as a graduate are coming with just a bit of something else that you've looked at, that definitely not only makes you stand apart from others, but I think it is more personally fulfilling and interesting, because it's great to always be learning and looking at new areas.
Yeah, and that I couldn't agree with you more about the always be learning as well. I think the one thing that has been consistent across every person I've spoken to is when you're entering a job market, technology is evolving at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and so what you know today is maybe not be here tomorrow. So that continuous learning loop as well, I think, is something that we all look for, and it's what people need to embrace rather than be afraid of.
Absolutely, and it's so easy now, isn't it? There's so many great courses online, so many things that you can read up and look at. Some of the people we've recently taken on, they've not only been doing things to do with their course, but 2 or 3 other bits and pieces on the side, rather than just spending every night watching Netflix. There are so many other things that can expand your mind, and not only help you in the job market, but I think that the core is where you can balance having a great job and a career with some sort of more personal fulfillment as well.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, thank you. That's been really, really interesting. And as I said, it's great to get an entrepreneurial view as well, and to understand a bit about your story. You've obviously come from public sector into consulting through to then being an entrepreneur. So you've clearly seen all, like, the major 3 factors, I guess, of commerce, and then your thoughts on technology and as we said, data and how it's evolving, especially within health tech, and then the advice for grads thinking about continuous learning and be interested and be interesting. That's one I'm going to remember as a tagline. I think that's a great quote. So look, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hope that's useful. Maybe just the one final thing, lots of people will read this, and I think it is true. Many of the best, greatest companies are born in the most difficult times, through recessions and downturns. The future at the moment for the next few months is uncertain, but the world will get through, will move through this. Graduates graduating now will have great careers, they'll progress. And now might be the absolute best time just to go for it and do something. Don't be the person that thought, if only I'd done this, that, or the other, and then you look at somebody else who might have had the same skills, same experience, same drive, but they've gone and done it. Don't be the person that isn't the one that just, it gets up and has a go. Go and achieve it, whatever it is, try it, push forward. Create that website, try the app, put an idea down on paper, move things forward, because, collectively the society is going to come out of this. But now is perhaps even more of an exciting time to try something.
Yeah, well, what great words to finish on, because I think that really is be brave, and we've got nothing to lose right now, I guess, is another thing. So don't be the one that lets it pass. So yeah, thank you. Really, really, as I said, really appreciate your time. And for all the listeners, I hope you found that really interesting. As I said, it's great to have balanced viewpoints and guests from across both health tech, fintech, e-commerce. It's the industry agnostic, but it's the continuous learning and well, as Bruce just said, don't be afraid to take challenges and the step forward. So this is another episode of the Future Tech podcast series. It's being posted on our YouTube channel, on Spotify, and on the careers portals of the universities we're partnered with. So another episode, and again, thank you again, Bruce. That was fantastic.
Thanks.